In my career, I think I find out at a later stage. I wish I had it, and which you had, and which you don't speak about a lot. I wish I had a therapist during my career because I had a lot of things that I was dealing with. I think I found out later on that you had a sports therapist helping you, and I wish I had that. That was something that would have been key in my career because I was in my head a lot, man, a prisoner of my own mind. And another thing is life going life. Life going happens. If you can't handle your issues off the field, it's gonna show on the field. And I think that having a therapist, somebody to help you through your thought process and to settle you down and to get you to understand this, to keep track and keep off track, having somebody like that to kind of help you navigate through that is a game changer for athletes who can be like a potential like medalists or finalists or whatever they can be. So I definitely, for athletes of this day and age, I always tell them, hey man, if you need a therapist, you should get one. I think a lot of our super pro athletes are not speaking about that enough, saying who they had as help off the field. You know what I mean? Which is a real game changer, man. That's a part of their team.
So before we head into the next question, I want to give you a little more background on what you just spoke about having someone to talk to, right? Sports psych. And I don't think I've ever told you the story either. Um, when I came back into the sport, 2010, and I went to the athletes retreat, right? Coming back into sport, you feel like almost like a pariah already. You feel like the stepchild. People kind of look at you sideways a little bit. Um, and I remember we just had a big team meeting and we were leaving out. And me come back into sport, I didn't recognize a lot of people. I had to reassociate myself with people. So I felt like a stranger. And this lady came over to me. She's from Trinidad. She had a Trinidad accent. Her name was Dr. Otley. And she said, You, she pointed to me as the crowd was leaving out the ballroom. She said, You stay back. I was like, Me? Like that? All right, cool. So I stayed back, and it was like a couple of athletes who were still trying to talk to her and wanted to get some information, and she shooed them out the door. Now, mind you, it's one of those big ballroom doors, like really tall, right? Like 12 feet, 15 feet tall, kind of ballroom doors, right? Big wooden door. And she closed this door with her whole body, and it almost felt like she closed me into this room. And she said, You're not leaving this room until you emotionally offload everything that you have on you. I can feel it. You walk around with such a heavy heart. And I looked at her like she was crazy. Like, man, what are you talking about? I'm just back. She's like, no, you're not. You're not ever going to be back until you release it. Release all that negative energy you have inside of you, all those worries, all those doubts you have, all that pressure. If you don't release that, you'll never be the person you desire to be. Come back on this track. And I instantly just started crying, like instantly. And I mean, just started draining down my face. Because at that point in time, I never released any of that. I just ate all that negativity. I ate all the haters, all that like trolling that was coming at me, all the negative publicity, all the media, everything. I just kept just taking it in and just, it weighed on me, man. You know what I mean? And she saw it. She didn't even have to talk to me. She saw it. And from that moment on, like she became my psych therapist. She became my sports doctor. And the beautiful thing about it was never one of those situations where a lot of people think you just gotta go lay on the couch and just go talk to somebody. I literally just have normal conversations with her. I'll ask her how her day's going. She'll tell me how she's doing. And then we'll start getting into the certain questions that would lead to like triggering me to try to fix those broken pieces of me and heal me. And it felt so organic. And the fact that I had someone that I could just have regular conversation with, I was so willing to open up with her. I was so willing to just tell her exactly what I felt, good and bad. So then she became like a beacon for me. So as my season and my career went on from 2010, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, it was somebody I relied on constantly, but from an organic standpoint, like a friend or a family member, that's someone who really could give me input and insight, not only on my situation, but how everything should be perceived. Because, as athletes, we dial ourselves in and we forget to look around us sometimes. So I want to say thank you, Doc. Thank you so much for just being there for me, being there for my heart, my soul, because I needed that. And I don't think that I even know that I needed that. And looking at and working with other sports psychs at that point in time, them listening to my story and me telling my story, the look of them was like, yo, I don't even know how to begin to help you. So I felt alone. So when she did that, it helped bring me kind of like out the grave. It helped me kind of like give me that rebirth that we always talked about.
Man, I definitely think that's a pivotal point in your career that's not talked about. Like, I definitely think that's definitely needed for the athletes because they'll look at you, be somebody like you, and they see you always in your successful role, not understanding your journey and how rough it was, what were the helps. So I definitely say for the younger athletes, the ones who are turning pro so young, get these kids a sports therapist, sports psychologist, somebody who could help them off the track, you know what I mean? Because you won't always want to speak to your dad or your mom, you know what I mean? You won't always want to speak to your coach. And sometimes give your coach a break because if you offload into the therapist, you allow your coach to be a great coach that he is and coach. You know what I mean? I understand that some coaches are there, a confidant, also a coach. But you know, when you trying to get greatness out of the athlete, if you have somebody else who could step into that role, it allows you to just coach. You know what I mean? But I definitely think the therapists and the coaches should be speaking, so they understand, what's going on with the athlete. Outside of the things like the personal issues, like what HIPAA would hold them to tell them, but definitely know to be like, hey, yo, the athlete had a rough day. Maybe give them a mental day off. Let them just do this. They can't tell the coach what's going on, but they can tell that hey, today might not be a day that this kid could train. Basically dealing with off the track issues. You know what I mean? And it could be like some trauma that they dealt with outside of the sport that they have to deal with off the track to get it together on the track.